Hi, everybody. Welcome to the third installment. I can't believe we're already in lesson three, but the third installment of our Song of Solomon series on sex, God, and love. And I hope that the first two videos have been a blessing to you. And tonight, as we bring you the third video, I am excited to bring this one to you because I think this video is going to wrap up a lot of things that we have been working on to this point. In Song of Solomon, it's really been about dating and courtship and the young intimacy and the young love that is growing between a man and a woman. But tonight we're going to culminate that part of the relationship with the 7 biblical qualities of an interested partner. We're going to look at the 7 biblical qualities of an interested partner. And then next week, Lord willing, I'm so excited to actually be able to present to us the wedding that is going to take place starting in chapter 3 and verse 6 through the end of the book. It's all about marriage and living the life of marriage after that. So I hope you'll buckle up with me tonight. We're going to dive in right now to the 7 biblical qualities of an interested partner. I don't know about you, but I'm ready to jump in. So let's get to it. All right. So we are going to start out with Song of Solomon, chapter 2. We're going to be looking at verses 4 through 17 tonight. And this video, I'm not going to drag it out real long, but we are going to do a little bit of reviewing as we jump into the passage together here. So let's get into it. Let's start out with a little bit of review of the book. And as we review the book, I want us to remember we started out the first video that we had with the biblical laws of attraction. The biblical laws of attraction. If you remember, those biblical laws of attraction were affection. You know, guys, we need to show our wives affection. There needs to be times where it's not all about sex. It's not all about sexual touching. It's about just spending time sitting there, touching in a non-sensual way, and being there for our spouses and showing them affection. Second of all, we talked about the emotional aspect of it, that we need to be building up our spouses. We don't need to be tearing them down. We need to be building them up emotionally, physically, spiritually. Guys, we should be the emotional cheerleaders for our wives, and wives, you should be an emotional cheerleader for your boyfriend or for your spouse, your husband. We are to build one another up emotionally. We're not to be tearing down in public. Guys, when you're with the guys, you don't talk bad about your wife. You build up your wife. You protect her both emotionally as just like you would also do in a physical way. I apologize for the phone there. Also, the third thing we talked about was hygiene. And with hygiene, we talked about the smells of a relationship. We talked about how scents are used to attract or to detract from a relationship. And a quick Google on hygiene and relationships, you'll find a lot of information out about there. Then we transitioned into character. And in the character realm, we talked about how a good name and a good reputation is important when it comes to a relationships with the opposite sex. And I want to jump in here and just say this. The Bible talks about a good name is to be desired. And guys, you should have a good reputation with the ladies. And ladies, you should have a good reputation with the men. You shouldn't be known as somebody that's easy or somebody that's a good time or things like that. They should respect you as a woman. They should respect you as a man. And so character matters. And if you missed any of this, go back to the first video. The first video talks all about these in detail. We look at them from scripture and you'll see exactly where these things are in Song of Solomon chapter 1. But then last of all is sexual desire. And there should be a sexual desire between a husband and a wife. So many times a spouse gets into a relationship because the other one was checking boxes. They find out that they're not even sexually attracted to their own spouse. And now they're stuck in marriage, so to speak, and they don't even have a physical attraction to their spouse. And that's a sad thing and should never, ever end up happening in a relationship. Then the second week, we talked about the 6 key ingredients. Remember, we're mixing up the bowl, we're mixing up the ingredients in the bowl to get a great biblical relationship. The 6 key ingredients, we talked about them, and I'm going to make them a little bigger on the screen just because they're a little bit hard to read. But the first one was vulnerability. Remember, we talked about vulnerability, being able to talk to our spouse and open up about things that we would tell nobody else. Is your spouse a safe haven for information, or do they blow up? Do they lose it? Can they not handle it? You know what, guys? We need to be vulnerable as well. We need to open ourselves up. We need to not have off limits areas when it comes to our spouse. We should be transparent in our relationships. And guys, if we can't be transparent, then we are the problem. We are the problem in the relationship, and you need to get help. Remember, second of all, we talked about quality time, spending quality time with our spouse. There should be a desire to be together, to spend time together, to do things together. So that's an important aspect as well. Quality time. Um, then affection is an important key aspect as well. We should show affection and affirm each other. There should be a desire to get together, an intensified desire. There should be a desire to want to be together, spend time. Remember, she is wanting to know where her man is going to be on that day, where he's going to be feeding his sheep so that she can come spend time with her man. And then there needs to be creative romance in our relationships. Guys, remember, you were very romantic when you wooed your wife 5 years, 10 years, 15, 30 years ago. Why'd you stop? Many times it's because men shift in their mindset from a role of inspiring and being creative in romance to protection, provision, and parenting in some ways. And it's not really a good thing. We need to get back to being creative in our romance. There needs to be times where we go out in nature and go hiking or spend time doing something, doing her hobbies and getting involved in the things that she likes. And she should be getting involved in your hobbies and getting to know the things that you like. And then last of all, a unique love. And we talked about this in detail. There should be a unique love, a one-off love that there's nobody else in the world that would satisfy you. And if you're in a dating relationship and there's somebody else that you might be interested in, then you know what? Don't commit. Get out of the relationship or wait and make sure that your love is unique to the person you're with, because there's nothing worse than getting into a marriage relationship and getting quote unquote stuck because we settled rather than going for the unique love. So that's review. That's chapters 1 all the way through chapter 2 and verse 3. And we are now going to pick it up as we transition again and we start to move forward into what we're going to look at this week. And this week, we're going to look at the 7 biblical qualities of an interested partner. Now, there are sometimes we are interested in somebody and they are not interested in us. Other times, other people are interested in us and we're not interested in them. But what happens when you are interested in somebody, and what would the qualities be of somebody that you are interested in or they're interested in you? What would the biblical qualities be of a person like that? That's what we're going to look at starting in Song of Solomon, chapter 4, or chapter 2 and verse 4. We're going to look at this. I'm going to start out with making this point here, and I'm going to make it big on the screen. Many people stay in relationships hoping and wanting it to work out, but they ignore the flags that either they or their partner lacks interest. You know, you've seen this before? You've seen it where a dating couple is dating and he is way more into the relationship than she is, or she's way more into the relationship than he is, and it's lopsided. And you can see that from outside. But many times when people are in relationships, they so want it to work out that they ignore the flags that are there and they continue to push forward. They continue to try to make it work. And the more they try to make it work, the worse it gets. So let's start talking about the 7 qualities of an interested partner. And quality number 1 is this: they want to make the relationship public. Look with me at verse 4 there on the right side. He brought me to the banqueting house, and his banner over me was love. here Solomon is taking his girl, the Shulamite woman at this point. I believe they're still in the courting relationship here. So this is pre-marriage, pre-sex. I think we're going to see that when we get into chapter 3, verse 6. We see the wedding, we see the consummation of the wedding, and then we see the rest of the book is about marriage and what happens within the bonds of marriage. And my personal belief is, as we've been working through this book, there's been a progression, there's been an escalation from a casual encounter to a dating to now a courtship to an engagement, an exclusivity that is there. And then now we're going to move into the wedding. So I believe we're in the engagement period here. We're in the late dating, courting, definitely in the engagement period. And she says this: he brought me to the banqueting house, and his banner over me was love. Now remember, we're studying Hebrew poetry here. We're studying things that are symbolic by nature sometimes. And this is one of those. When I began to look into this a little bit, I noticed a couple things, especially about his banner over me is love. But before we get to that, let me read this to you. When one person in the relationship is uncomfortable with making their exclusivity public, it is a sign that one person in the relationship feels differently than the other. So when your man doesn't want to go public, he wants to stay private with the relationship, friend, there's a problem. When she doesn't want to go public, she just wants to stay home. She doesn't want to go out. She doesn't want to be seen with you in public. She just wants to talk on the phone, or he just wants to talk on the phone and just hang out and just be close and private. You know what? There's something wrong with that relationship. A healthy relationship has no problem and even desires to be around other people. So be careful if there is that desire to not want to be with others. Let's read on. Remember, his banner over me is love. The word banner over me is love is describing a soldier going into war. Notice what she says here. She goes, verse 5, sustain me with raisins, refresh me with apples, for I am sick with love. She says, your banner over me is love in verse 4. She says, I am sick with love, or I am lovesick for my lover in verse 5. And this is a person who is emphatically secure with who her lover is, and she is desirous to be with him. And his banner over me, we sing that song, his banner over me is love, don't we, about Jesus Christ. But the banner was a sign of war. It was an identifier to identify you with a certain group of people, with a certain division of the military. So his banner is me. In other words, she's saying this: I'm with him and he is with me. And he sustains me with raisins, refreshes me with apples. He gives me the sweet things of life. He nourishes me. He provides for me. He cares for me. And I am lovesick because of what he is doing for me. Definition of lovesick means this: you think about and do things you normally would not do based on feelings or infatuation. So she says this: he is making me to do things I normally would not do. He's making me to think things I normally would not think. And my feelings and my infatuation for him is such that I want everybody in the room to know I am with him. I am with her, is what he's saying as well. And we see this couple is all about each other. Which leads us to number 2. There should be a desire. Not only should there should be a desire to be public, but there should be a desire for closeness when you are apart. When you are separated for a season, there should be a closeness. And here I believe that she's imagining this, or she's thinking through this. Notice what she says in verse 6. His left hand is under my head. His right hand is embracing me. So imagine now, he is hugging, he is caressing, he is holding his woman. She has a desire to be with her man. She has a desire for him to touch her in a non-sexual way. There is a closeness that she desires in this relationship. Then the very next verse, verse 7, we run into this interesting verse. And it's like a shift. Remember, she's kind of imagining about her man, imagining being hugged by him, left hand, right hand. And then all of a sudden, there's this warning from the Shulamite woman in verse 7. She says, I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles or the does of the field, that you not stir up nor awaken love until it pleases. Until it pleases, she says. Do not awaken love. What in the world could she be talking about here? What is she getting at? I adjure you, she's appealing to part of the harem of Solomon here. These ladies who are virgins, who are in the kingdom, but she is mentoring them. Remember, we talked about that in the first and second videos. There's three real interpretations for this injected verse. It seems kind of like just injected into the passage here. And let me give you those here quickly. The first interpretation is this: be careful with this kind of love. Don't stir it up until the time is right. Remember, I mentioned this is right before the wedding is going to take place. So they are deep into this relationship now. They've spent quality time together. They've gotten to know each other. They've talked through a lot of things. They have spent time in the fields. They've spent time in private. They've spent time in public. They have gotten to know each other. And she says, girls, be careful with this kind of love. Don't stir it up until the time is right. In other words, don't give yourself up early. Wait it out, and it'll be beneficial for you. Or maybe the second interpretation is more true. Do not disturb our love making. Now, it's not talking about sex there. It's talking about us building our love for one another, our building of the relationship until we desire. In other words, leave us alone until we're ready to bring you in. Let us be us and let us figure this thing out. And then we will bring you back into the relationship when we're at a point that we feel comfortable. Or number 3, don't force love to happen until the time is right. Wait for it to blossom on its own. Now, whichever one of these you want to take and you want to run with, I don't think there is a bad thing. I don't think there is a good interpretation here. I think all three of them are plausible interpretations, and scholars are mixed up on this all over the place. But a combination between 1 and 3. Wait and be careful and make sure the time is right. Not so much number 2, but definitely 1 and 3 is where most scholars land. And I tend to agree with them as I study the book as well. So then we move into quality number 3. There is an excitement to see one another. Look with me at the verse here. I'm having trouble getting it to switch over. There it goes. All right, notice what the verse says in verse 8. The voice of my beloved, behold, he is coming, leaping over the mountains, bounding over the hills. Now, I don't know about you, but the words leaping and bounding, and I hear the voice of my beloved with an exclamation point, I think there's some excitement. I think there is some excitement between this man and this woman, especially the woman right now, as she is the center of attention in this passage of Scripture. She is saying, I hear his voice. I know he's coming. I know he has leaped over things to get to me. I know he's handled a lot in his life today. And now my man is coming to see me, and I am excited to see him. This is a man who is pursuing his woman. He's looking to spend time with her. He's coming to where she is to spend time. Guys, take note of that. Let me ask you a question. Are you still excited to spend time with your partner? Are you still excited to spend time with your partner? You see, in early parts of relationships, we don't know the other person. When we haven't been intimate with the other person, we haven't spent a lot of time with the other person. All we do is think about them. But it seems in a relationship, especially if you don't maintain it, especially if you don't continue to nurture it, you don't continue to work it, you get in this autopilot mode, and it's very easy to fall prey and get stuck in a rut in a relationship and start the insanity cycle they talk about in a relationship, where we are no longer excited to spend time with our spouse. We're not looking forward to seeing them. There's nothing there to look forward to because, frankly, you don't do anything together. And there are partners in marriage who have kids and go their entire married life with kids, and the kids graduate from high school, graduate from college, they get married off, and they look at each other and they say, "Who are you? I haven't seen you in 2 decades or 3 decades. Who are you?" And it's sad to see the divorce rate in older married couples when the kids leave the house, the empty nesters, they call them. The divorce rate in the empty nesters is very high today. And it's partly because we are not maintaining our marriages. So I ask you the question, are you still excited to spend time with your partner at this point in marriage? That leads us into number 4, intentional pursuit. And I briefly mentioned this just a minute ago when I read verse 8, but look at verse 8 again. It says, "Behold, he comes leaping over the mountains, bounding over the hills. My beloved is like a gazelle or a young stag. Behold, there he stands behind our wall, gazing through the windows, looking through the lattice." Man, he can't wait to see her. He's looking through the windows. He's making sure that she's there. He's excited to see her. She's excited to see him. And there is an intentional pursuit that is taking place between this man and this woman. And that leads me to ask the question, or make the statement really, that a godly man in pursuit will display an intentional effort with urgency to win the heart of his woman. A godly man in pursuit displays an intentional effort and urgency to win the heart of his woman. This guy is jumping over hills, leaping over mountains, jumping over walls just to get to see his girl. Guys, you still feel that way at work? I can't wait to clock out. I can't wait to drive home. I can't wait to blow through this traffic, get into my driveway, open the front door, and see my girl, see my woman. Do you feel like that today? Are you still pursuing your wife? Are you still pursuing with that same intensity that you did? Many times, guys, we have to confess we're not. And that's something that we need to work on. A man on pursuit will overcome any obstacle to win a woman's heart. You ever watch two guys compete for a woman's heart? One's trying to do it with opulence and money. The other's trying to do it with quality time and attention. The guy that spends quality time and attention 9 out of 10 times will win. By the way, guys, I just gave you the plot to every Hallmark movie out there. That's what they watch all Christmas long. 40 to 60 movies, all the same theme, all of them. The guy that's sincere, the guy that has their wishes, their interests, their desire in his heart is the one that wins. The one that overcomes whatever obstacle to win her heart, he wins. By the way, women, let me make a statement here. Stop making excuses for a man who is not pursuing you. Stop making excuses for a man who is not pursuing you. Let me talk about that just briefly here because this is an important aspect to understand. If he will not pursue you because he loves you, because he wants to spend time with you, then state that. Don't make excuses for him because a guy that has an excuse will embrace that excuse till the day he dies. And we need to make sure that we are not making excuses for a man who is not pursuing. Well, he's just so busy. Oh my goodness, if I heard that one. Remember, intentionality. A guy who wants to get to a woman will figure out a way to make it work. Well, he just doesn't have time. He's so busy. He's so needed at work. He's whatever the excuse is. Stop making excuses for a man who does not pursue you, who doesn't have your interest in his heart, who doesn't want to be with you. Stop making excuses and call him out. Do it in a right way, do it in a godly way, but call him out. Because making excuses is not empowering your man to be better. You're actually making the situation absolutely worse. 25 minutes in here, so I'm going to keep this thing moving. I want this to be a shorter video, and but it's important that we understand these concepts. By the way, a man who pursues will overcome the following. So remember, we're making excuses. We're actually going to be making excuses in some of the areas in which he should be overcoming and can overcome the obstacles in. The first one is money. And you ever notice, even the poorest of guys, when he wants to take a girl out, figures out how to go. Maybe they don't go to Outback. Maybe they don't go to Longhorn. Maybe they go to McDonald's. Maybe they go to Hardee's. Wherever they go. But they figure out a way to make money happen. By the way, guys, if money is the excuse for why you don't do everything, money is something that you can always attain. There's always a way to get more money at some point. But to get time back with your spouse, that's something you can't afford to lose. So, money, transportation, if you're in a dating relationship and he's always needing a ride and he's not providing and you're having to do everything in the relationship, be cautious of that. Because a guy who wants to be with you is going to figure out a way to get a ride to your place. He's going to figure out a way to get transportation and provide in the relationship so that you can grow the relationship. And if he won't grow and provide in the dating and engagement period, the odds of him doing it in the marriage relationship is not very good. Time. He's just so busy. No, don't fall for that. Guys will make time for what is important. Now, let me also state this. Sometimes they say, well, we're just so busy and a lot of things going on in life. His work really is demanding. Now, we make time for the things that are important. Guys have a way to manage time. If they want to go fishing, look how fast they get their schedule cleared to go fishing. They can't get a day off work to go to your kid's musical, but they can get a week off work to go hunting. There you go. You get the drift. You know what I'm saying. Also, inconvenience. Guys will overcome inconvenience if it's important to them. You know what? If you call up your guy and you say, hey, I need to get to work. My car broke down today. I live 20 minutes away. Will you come pick me up? And he gives you all kinds of reasons and excuses why he can't do it or why he can't find somebody, why he can't help you, and you're an inconvenience to him, then that's a red flag. And guys, if your woman needs you, you get there. Husbands, if your wife needs help, you get there. Don't be inconvenienced by your spouse. And last but not least, on the screen, you can read it there yourself. There's a danger that he will lean and tell you that things are not natural for him, that, cuddling or quality time or talking or spending time, it's just not natural for me. You know what? Guys will overcome the unnatural things and they will learn if they want to spend time with you. They will adapt, they will adjust. So don't take excuses in the following areas because men will overcome and they will figure out a way to spend time with their woman. All right, let's keep this thing moving now. Number 5 of 7, a desire to date and not just sit around. Look with me at verse 10. My beloved speaks and says to me, arise, my love, my beautiful one, and come away. For behold, the winter is past, and the rain is over and gone. Here she is saying this. Man, the weather is nice. It is beautiful outside. We need to get outside, get off our backsides, and go do something. Look, she goes on further to introduce this as we read down through the verses here. The flowers appear on the earth. The time of singing has come, and the voice of the turtle dove is heard in our land. The fig tree ripens its figs, and the vines are in blossom. They give forth fragrance. Arise, my love, my beautiful one, and come away. This doesn't sound like they want to sit on the couch. This sounds like we want to go out and we want to do something. We want to spend time in nature. He continues on in verse 14. Oh, my dove in the clefts of the rock and the crannies of the cliff, let me see your face. Let me hear your voice. For your voice is sweet and your face is lovely. This is a guy who is in pursuit about his woman. They don't just want to sit around on the couch. They want to get out and do something together. They want to enjoy nature together. Remember, earlier in the book in chapter 1, they wanted to spend quality time together. They wanted to go out where the cedars are the walls and the green grass is the bed, or the ground is the bed, and just sit in nature and enjoy time one with another in a picnic out in the middle of nowhere in God's nature. And here again, there is a desire to go out hiking, to go out and view nature, go out and see things. They don't just want to sit around. They don't just want to be together on a couch, bored out of their skull, spending time together. They want to be doing things together. Ladies, again, beware of a man who just wants to sit around and hang out, quote unquote. He just wants to be with his woman. He just wants to sit quietly in his kingdom, in his castle, and doesn't want to do anything with his girlfriend, doesn't want to do anything with his wife. Beware of men who just want to sit around and hang out. You know what? They're interested in what's in it for them. They're consumers. They're not givers. Make him take you out. Make him, woo him, pull him out into nature. Make him go and do things. Don't just sit on the couch every night and watch TV, okay? I know when you have kids, it gets harder. And if you have special needs kids, my heart feels for you, because I've got a special needs kid myself, and they take a lot of time. And you can't just give them to anybody to watch because of certain things about their sickness or their compromised state of health. But you know what? There needs to be times where we get alone with our spouses and we're intentional about taking them out and doing things with them, going out as a family, going out and getting outside your house. And you know what? There is something to getting out and doing something as a family. Go sled riding together. Go skiing. Go tubing. Go horseshoeing. Play horseshoes. Do things outside. Snowshoeing is what I wanted to say. But do things outside. Go outside. Get in nature. Spend quality time one with another. That leads us to number 6, a willingness to resolve conflict. Now, ladies are quicker at this one. Men, we stink at this. Men would rather die than resolve conflict. Notice what it says in verse 15 here. Catch the foxes for us, the little foxes that spoil the vineyards, for our vineyards are in blossom. Again, Hebrew literature here, so we got to do a little research, try to figure out what's going on. Well, when the vineyard is in full blossom, the foxes come in and they want to consume of the fruit that's in the vineyard. They want to partake of it. So we need to catch the foxes and get them out of the vineyard. But you know, the little foxes, they're kind of cute. They're kind of fun. They're just running around. They're not really harming anything. But what happens to a small fox? What does it eventually become? The large fox that's in your vineyard that's eating all the fruit. And here the Bible is warning us that we need to be willing to resolve conflicts when they are small, not wait for them to blow up before we deal with them. Deal with them when they're small, then they won't come back. When they're big, they become big problems. So this is for us to be proactive in our resolving a conflict. I mentioned before, guys are terrible at this. You know what, ladies? You want to know if a guy's going to be forgiving? Watch how he treats his friends. Watch how he treats his enemies. Because if he can't let it go, if he can't put it away, he's not going to let it go with you either. During the dating relationship, he'll overlook a lot of things. But in the marriage relationship, he's going to become very critical, very sinister, and very mean, if you will. Especially when it comes to conflict. He's not going to let go of things. He's going to hold grudges. He's going to hold things over your head. He's going to manipulate situations to make you feel like the one that's always wrong. And that's not right. That's not biblical. So Remember, we're talking about what biblical men, what biblical women would be like who are interested in another biblical person. There should be and definitely will be a willingness to resolve conflict, even when it's small, especially when it's small. Because when it's small, it's easier to deal with than when it's big. I don't know how many times I talked to couples where one of them's holding the grenade, the other one's holding the pin, and they've been separated. It's only a matter of time until fatigue takes over and they're going to drop the grenade and it's going to blow the whole marriage up. Put the pin in the grenade, throw the grenade away, and deal with those small little problems that come up in marriage before they explode into big ones. The little fox is a subtle thing in a marriage or in a relationship that are neutral or even maybe good that may slowly erode a relationship. Little fox is a subtle thing in marriage or relationship that are neutral or good that may slowly erode a relationship. Kind of like that little fox running through the field. He's so cute. He don't hurt nothing. Well, when the big fox comes back later on, he does hurt things and does mess things up. So I want to ask a question by application. What are the little foxes that are destroying the vineyard of your love in your relationship? What are the little foxes that are destroying the vineyard of your love or relationship? You know, if he's holding things over top of your head, you need to talk about those things. If your husband will not open up to you, you need to talk about that. What is he hiding? Why is he not opening up to you? What needs to be said to get him to open up? And if he won't open up, and you're in a married relationship and your husband won't open up, I'm sorry, but you're in a very bad spot. You're in a very bad spot. But if you're in a relationship that still has a chance, get help. Deal with those problems. Get him to talk. Get to counseling. Do something about it. Don't allow the small things in your relationship to become big things to blow it up later on. Let's keep moving. Little foxes are things like this. Busyness. Well, he's just so busy. He's always at work. He doesn't have time for me. We're just so busy. And by the way, busy could be good things too. We could be busy with church. We could be busy with leisure, camping, boating, skiing, horseback riding, driving, shopping. There's so many things, and not all of them are bad that we are busy with. But busyness is a little fox that over time, even by being neutral or good, will cause problems in a relationship. Laziness, not getting out doing things, not helping to clean, not helping to vacuum, not helping to do chores around the house or yard work or whatever it is. I mean, there could be so many things. Just complacency, laziness, fatigue is a little fox. Just so tired. You know, we need to be intentional with our relationships, intentional with what we do. Unhealthy communication. Wow, is this one big? Unhealthy communication. You know, when you're dating, when you're young and married, you want to know where each other are, what they're doing. And it seems like the older marriage you get, the more you're just like, I don't know where she is. I don't know what she's doing. I do my thing. She does her thing. And sometimes we get together and we do something together, but I don't know. You know what? Unhealthy communication. No communication is unhealthy communication, but little communication is unhealthy communication. Learn to communicate. Spend time talking. Get alone with your spouse. Spend time getting to know them and keep knowing them all through the relationship. Don't allow that little fox, a lack of communication, to become 20 years down the road. I don't even know who you are. We're just roommates. We're not lovers. We're roommates. Next, resentment from unresolved conflict. Remember, I just talked about this. This is usually the guys, okay? The guys, but ladies can do this as well. Conflict has been happened, and we're waiting for the other one to give in, and we're going to get our way, and we're not going to deal with it, and we pull out the 100% bombers. You always, you never. Well, those aren't true. You ever notice that when you want to get even with your spouse, use 100% statements? You go and blow them up using 100%ers when you don't even do anything 100%. But anyway, there's resentment for unresolved conflict. You know what? you have been the victim so many times in the argument that you have just learned to say, you know what, you're right, or whatever you think, and you walk away, and just over time, resentment builds up. This is a spouse who, over and over again, her husband beats her down verbally, mentally, whatever. She's never right. She's no good. She's not worth anything. She's just the sexual desire I have fulfilled. I provide. I make more money. I do more work. I'm the head of the house. And man, she begins to resent him, and actually to the point of hating. They hate their spouse. And this is all part of resentment from unresolved conflict. Things have happened in a relationship that have never been addressed, never been dealt with. We scoop it under the rug. The little fox has become a big fox, and now there's a problem down the road. Sometimes unhealthy communication is bad, but a lack of communication is worse. There's no communication at all. We need to align our schedules. We need to make sure that we're tearing down walls to be able to spend time together and talk one with another. And then, last of all, a fox that is sometimes in the vineyard is too much focus on children. You know what? Children do not run the house. The inmates don't run the asylum. Parents, you are in control of the house. Husbands and wives, you need to carve out time in your schedule that don't involve the kids' schedule. That is something mom and dad are going to do, and the kids need to know their place. Sometimes I have to do this in my own household where the kids think they're going to run the show, and I don't want to go do that. Well, nobody asked you if you wanted to. You're going to do it because the family's doing it. And we need to make sure that the priorities are right. And there are some households where the kids run everything. The entire family revolves around kids. And you know what? You better be careful in your marriage if that's the case. Because one day that last senior is going to graduate, going to go off to college, and they're going to go away for college, or they graduate from college and have a spouse, and then you're going to be left with your spouse that you have spent no time with, because for the last 25 to 30 years, you've put all your time into your kids, and you have neglected one another, and now you don't even know what to do with each other. You're in this big house all by yourself with your spouse, and you don't even know them. How sad. How sad. And we say that we love these people. We say that we care about these people. You know what? We need to show it. We need to live it. We need to show them how much we love them. Don't just tell them, show them how much we love them. All right, last but not least, number 7, 40 minutes in, 43 minutes here, making a full commitment. Look at chapter 2, verses 16 and 17. He says this. She says this. My beloved is mine and I am his. He grazes among the lilies. Until the day breathes and the shadows flee, turn, my beloved, be like a gazelle or a young stag on the cleft of mountains. Again here, there is no doubt about making a full commitment to one another. My beloved is mine and I am his. They have done what we call the DTR moment, the define the relationship moment. And let me talk about defining the relationship a little bit, because when we define the relationship, we need to be careful or beware of somebody who avoids defining relationships. When we define a relationship, we're talking about where are we at? Are we dating? Are we courting? Are we serious? Are we going to be talking marriage type stuff here soon? You know, it signifies that there's a lack of desire or a lack of interest on their behalf when they are unwilling or not willing to define the relationship. We need to be committed in the relationship. Again, she said, I am his and he is mine. We have talked about this. We have become exclusive to each other. We are engaged at this point. There is no doubt that he is digging me and I am digging him. And he and I are on the same page and we are walking the same direction with the same goals. We understand our roles. We understand where we are. By the way, that's going to lead into our next video. The next video is going to be about the 10 things or the 10 questions that you should ask before marriage, or 10 questions. Maybe you're married. You say, well, Pastor Joe, it's too late for that. I'm already married. I'm already in a relationship. Well, these are 10 questions that you should ask to define your relationship, or the DTR, define the relationship. And it is important for married couples as well as for dating couples or engaged couples to go through and define the relationship at different stages. In next video that I'm going to produce, we are going to go over those 10 questions that need to be asked before we get married. Or maybe you're married and you weren't saved, or maybe you were married and you never got to ask those questions, and now you're in marriage counseling, or you're looking for something that's going to save your marriage and help you to define where you are as a couple. Well, 10 questions to define a relationship is a great place to start, because if you answer these 10 questions as a couple, it's going to give you many, many different entry points to make real change in your relationship. So, back to this though, define the relationship. Beware of somebody who avoids defining the relationship. This signifies a lack of interest on their part. Well, we're not going to call ourselves exclusive. I mean, we want to leave our options open. That means you're more committed than they are. You need to be careful in that situation, because you don't want to get into an exclusive relationship if they are not committed to exclusivity. This is where cheating occurs. This is where unfaithfulness happens. This is why we need to make sure that we are in love with the person, we are infatuated with the person, we are attracted to them sexually, we're attracted to them in their character and their personality, in all the areas that we've talked about thus far. This is why we talked about the meeting, the dating, the courting, the engagement. And now we're getting ready to enter into the marriage stage, and there's some things that we need to be talking about, things that need to be defined, things that need to be addressed before we enter into marriage. That's it. End of chapter 2. How about that? We have made it through 2 chapters of the book of Song of Solomon, and I hope that as we've gone through these together that you've learned a lot of things about relationships as we move through this. But I want to remind you that these are the 7 biblical qualities of an interested partner. And these qualities are important. I mean, think about it. Making a relationship public. We should be making relationships public. There's a desire for closeness when we're apart. We need to be close to one another. We need to be intentional about getting to each other. There should be an excitement to see one another, an excitement, an expectation of jumping over obstacles, of moving things out of the way to be able to get to one another. And then intentional pursuit. Intentional pursuit. There should be a man who is pursuing his girl will not make excuses. He will figure out solutions. Then there should be a desire to date, not just to hang out with one another. Go out and do things. Do things as a couple. Do things as dates. Get out of the house. A guy who just wants to lay around and feel up a girl, or a guy who just wants to lay around with a girl and that's all they do, is going to be focused 100% on the physical, and he's not going to be attracted to the person. He's only going to be in it for the physical things. Number 6, there should be a willingness to resolve conflict. Men, lead. You take the lead when it comes to resolving conflict. If you're wrong, state you're wrong. Be honest. Do what's right for the relationship. Do what's right before God. Do what's right before your spouse. Do what's right before your kids. You be the one that initiates forgiveness. After all, you trust in Jesus Christ to forgive you of your sins, and yet you can't forgive somebody else for some little thing they did to you physically or emotionally? Really? Come on, guys. Let's grow up. Forgive as you have been forgiven. It says so right in the Lord's Prayer. The Lord will forgive us as we forgive others their trespasses. And you know what? A man that is resentful, a man that is bitter, a man that is hard, a man who does not have friends, is a man that doesn't forgive. A man that's not forgiving. He hasn't forgiven somebody of something in his past, and that's why he's still struggling. And now you are the object. Usually the wife is the object of his anger. Sometimes it's the kids. Sometimes it's another leader, another person in their life. But there's something deeply wrong with a man who will not forgive. Because to whom much is forgiven, much more is required, right? Isn't that biblical? So make sure that you are forgiving and making relationships right, resolving conflict. And remember, deal with those little foxes that are out there in your marriage before they blow up into big ones so that you don't need the reconciliation. And then finally, number 7 is making the commitment, making a full commitment when it comes to relationships. And that is DTR, define the relationship. State where you are, state where you want to be 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now. How many kids? What kind of house? What kind of money? What kind of job? But when my wife married me, she knew I wanted to go into ministry. And that going into ministry meant we were going to move around and we were going to be in different places. And we didn't necessarily control our destiny or our riches or any of the stuff that comes to that. And my wife signed up still. So define your relationship. Know where you are. All right. So that's going to do it for this one. I want to thank you for tuning in tonight to this Bible study. I hope it was a blessing to you. And if you like this video, list something down in the description below, down in the statements below that was a blessing to you or a challenge to you. Maybe there's a topic I need to cover a little better as we've gone through this series. Now that we're 3 videos in and 2 chapters into Song of Solomon, maybe there's some questions that you have, some things that you're wondering about that maybe we didn't cover because of time or just skipping through some of the passages. I don't cover everything. This video series would be 32 weeks long easy if we wanted to cover everything, cover this book. But our real goal in this book is to talk about sex, God, and love and relationships. By the way, if you're single and you're watching this, everything we've been talking about applies to any relationship. Now, granted, the sexual intimacy, stuff like that, that's things that'll come. But even among friends, interpersonal relationships, the things that we're talking about are true in any relationship. You want to have character. You want to be true. You want to speak truth. You want to be intimate. Guys, if you got an accountability partner, all these things that we're talking about are true of an accountability partner. You got to be honest. You got to be intimate. You've got to be trustworthy. You've got to spend quality time with them, and they spend quality time with you. You need to talk. You need to communicate. You need to do all these things. So as you're watching these videos, don't think it's just for marriage. We're talking about relationships. We're talking about 2 people interacting with one another. Specifically, we're talking about a man who is interested in a woman for the purpose of marrying her and spending the rest of his life with her. But the things that are in the relationship are true across the board. So don't think that this portion of scripture doesn't apply to you. If you watch at this point and you say, well, Pastor Joe, that's great. I want to be in a dating relationship. I want to get involved in a courting relationship. I want to get involved in an engagement period in my life, and I want to be part of that. I want that for my life too. And someday I'll get there. So I'm watching this to get that. Man, keep watching. You will get things out of this series. Remember, all scripture is given by inspiration of God, and it is profitable. You will get things out of this that'll benefit you in all relationships. And if you're married to this point, you said, Pastor Joe, it's all been about dating, it's all been about introduction, it's all been about courting. Man, if you haven't seen some of the truth of what your past as we've gone through this, some of the things you used to do that you no longer do, some of the things that you wish you would have done in the past that you need to start right now in the present doing, that I feel for you. But I can promise you this, starting with chapter 3, you better fasten your seatbelt if you're a couple watching this, because y'all are going to start looking at each other going, uh-huh, and he's going to be like, uh-huh, and it's going to get real here pretty quick. So I'm going to leave you there for this one. Like the channel, if you like the channel on Facebook. If you want to leave a comment, please leave a comment below. There's some way I can pray for you. I challenge you to allow me to pray for you. And I would like to close. I opened the last section with prayer. I'd like to close this one with prayer. So let's pray together. Father, thank you for your word. I thank you that we can study it, we can know it. I thank you for this Hebrew poetry that helps us to understand what your desire is between 2 biblical persons trying to come together in a relationship, and how they can connect with one another and be interested in each other to the point where they come together, they're unified in their vision, they're unified in their direction, and they want to spend the rest of their lives together. And Father, you alone are the one that is the great matchmaker who brings people together and allows them to grow closer to each other. And Father, as the great triangle illustration shows, when 2 people are separated and God is the focus, as they pursue God, they will draw nigh to each other as well as they climb up. They want the horizontal relationship to grow, but when we allow the vertical relationship to grow with you, it automatically draws us together into a three-part marriage. And a three-cord rope is hard to break. And Father, I pray that we would have strong marriages. I pray we would have strong dating relationships. I pray we would have strong engagements to your glory and your honor, and that we would keep ourselves pure and make sure that we keep the right aspects of dating and relationships in the right categories. And Father, may you be glorified. And Father, if there's some marriages out there that are struggling, I pray that these videos will be a blessing to them and a help to them in the days ahead. And Lord, may you get the glory. Amen and amen. Thank you for tuning in. I will see you in the next video. The next one is 10 questions to ask before you get married. But if you're married, 10 questions that you can ask to define the relationship so that you can find a place to springboard off of and change the trajectory of your marriage. So I hope you'll come back with me. We'll look at chapter 3, verses 1 through 5, which is a really weird section of Song of Solomon. Really weird area, but we're going to use that to springboard to ask the questions that we're going to ask in the next one. So I am Pastor Joe. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one. So long.